You thought it was a breakdown, but it was a breakthrough in disguise. You thought the pain was punishment, but it was preparation. You cried, you bled, you crawled through seasons that almost crushed you. But hear me, you were never broken. You were being built. Built in the silence. Built in the rejection. Built in the dark places where nobody applauded you. God was shaping your spirit while people were doubting your potential. Don't you dare call it over when God calls it foundation. Don't you walk away from the ashes, because that's where He's building your altar. I came to speak to every soul who's ever felt forgotten, abandoned, shattered by life. Let me tell you something, loud and clear. You weren't broken. You were built for this. And now, it's your season to rise. It's your moment to be elevated. Not by man, not by applause, by God. So stand up, dry those tears, and prepare your heart, because you're not stepping into ruin, you're stepping into revelation. And when God lifts you, no devil in hell can pull you back down. Let's go. What looked like brokenness was actually a blueprint. You thought you were falling apart, but you were really falling into place. The pieces weren't scattered, they were being positioned. Every moment you cried yourself to sleep, every time you questioned your worth, every setback that made you think God forgot about you, it wasn't destruction, it was design. See, the enemy wanted you to believe that the pain was a permanent mark of failure. That when they walked out, when the business crumbled, when the diagnosis came, when your own mind became a battlefield, you were broken beyond repair. But God never saw you as broken. He saw you as becoming what He designed before time began, becoming what pain would reveal and pressure would purify, becoming the weapon that hell couldn't handle and the testimony that generations would feed from. You didn't lose your value when you went through that trauma. You didn't lose your calling when they overlooked you. You didn't lose your identity when you were buried in depression. You didn't lose your identity when you were buried in depression. In fact, that was when the blueprint started showing through. The mess revealed the maker. The storm revealed the strength. You thought you were done, but God was just getting started. Every structure starts with a blueprint. Nobody celebrates the digging of the foundation. Nobody claps when the ground is torn up, when dirt is everywhere, when nothing looks finished. But the foundation is the most important part of the building. And what you called brokenness, God called foundation work. He was digging deep so He could raise you high. He was stripping away the surface so He could strengthen your core. He knew if He didn't take you low, the heights would crush you. So yes, it felt like breaking. Yes, it felt like abandonment. But God was drawing the lines, mapping out your destiny, preparing you for what you were always meant to carry. You didn't miss your moment. You were made in it. There's something about broken seasons that reveal what couldn't be seen in blessed ones. When you were up, everyone clapped. When you had it all together, the room was full. But when you were down, when the phone stopped ringing, when the doors wouldn't open, when even your own strength left you, that's when God spoke the loudest. In the silence, in the dark, in the place where you thought you'd never come back from, that's where the blueprint started to make sense. He was showing you that your identity isn't in what you have, is in who you are. That even when everything is taken from you, the anointing remains. That even when you lose relationships, your purpose doesn't walk out with them. That even when you're stripped of the stage, the spotlight, the approval, you're still chosen. You're still called. You're still built for this. You see, man looks at the outside, but God builds from the inside out. That's why he didn't explain the breaking. That's why he didn't stop the tears. Because if he had removed the process, you'd be standing tall with a hollow foundation. You'd look like a tower on the outside, but collapse under the weight of your assignment. So God let it break, not to destroy you, but to build the you that couldn't be shaken. And let's talk real. Some of us were so attached to our plans that the only way God could get us to his purpose was to wreck what we built. We were loyal to people who were draining us, addicted to versions of success that left our souls bankrupt, clinging to our image more than we were clinging to his presence. So he allowed the tearing, not out of cruelty, but out of love, because he knew what was on the other side. He saw the oil that could only flow through crushing. He saw the voice that could only rise through silence. He saw the boldness that could only be born through brokenness. So while you were crying, heaven was constructing. While you were questioning, angels were aligning. While you were begging for rescue, God was getting ready to reveal. You weren't broken, you were blueprinted, designed, drafted, drawn up by the master architect who never wastes pain and never misses a detail. You are not an accident. Your life has lines drawn by heaven. And every detour, every delay, every disappointment, it's all in the blueprint. What you thought was a wrong turn was just a winding road that still led to destiny. What you thought was the end of your story was just the folding of the page. Don't curse the season that trained you. Don't despise the path that prepared you, because what you survived is the evidence that you're ready for elevation. And don't you dare compare your process to anyone else's. Their blessing isn't your blueprint. Their platform isn't your purpose. You don't need to rush. You don't need to explain. You don't need to validate what God is doing in your life to people who were never part of the construction crew. This was between you and God. This was your wilderness. This was your Gethsemane. This was your secret place where God shaped what he's now about to showcase. So wipe your eyes. Shake the dust off. Stop calling yourself broken. You're not fragile. You're fortified. You're not falling apart. You're falling into purpose. You're not the victim of your story. You are the vessel. The blueprint is coming to life. The vision is about to manifest. What God drew in private, he's about to reveal in public. And when he does, when the doors open, when the tables turn, when the honor flows in, and the voices that once mocked you go silent, you'll know. You'll know that none of it was wasted. None of it was for nothing. It was always working. It was always building. It was always him. And you weren't broken. You were built for this. The crushing was for the calling. What you thought was killing you was actually cultivating you. It wasn't punishment, it was preparation. You didn't go through that pain just to suffer. You didn't face rejection, abandonment, and heartbreak just to survive it. God was pressing something out of you that comfort could never bring forth. He was pressing the oil. He was pulling out the power. He was molding your spirit for the weight of the assignment he placed on your life. You see, people want the calling, but they don't want the crushing. They want the platform, but not the process. They want the anointing, but not the agony that precedes it. But make no mistake, There is no calling without crushing. There is no oil without pressure. There is no strength without struggle. And you, yes, you, were chosen to walk through what others wouldn't survive, not because you were being punished, but because you were being prepared to carry something heavy, something holy, something that hell is afraid of. You didn't bleed just to bleed. You bled because your healing would teach others how to live. You didn't cry just to cry. Your tears were watering seeds that would grow into fruit for others to eat. There was purpose in every heartbreak. There was intention behind every betrayal. You didn't just lose friends, you gained discernment. You didn't just walk through fire. You came out carrying fire. The crushing is sacred. It's not a sign that God has left you. It's a sign that He's close. Only those trusted with destiny are trusted with the press. He's not crushing you to destroy you. He's crushing you to release what's inside of you. The oil in you is rare. The strength in you is costly. That's why the process felt so intense. That's why you couldn't skip steps, because what He's called you to carry demands depth. It demands substance. It demands that you be emptied of everything that's not Him so you can be filled with everything that is. You've been asking God to use you, to elevate you, to fulfill the vision. And He's been answering through the press. He's been answering through the waiting, through the silence, through the loneliness. Because when God is getting ready to use someone greatly, He allows them to be crushed deeply. And even though you didn't see it then, now you're beginning to understand why certain doors had to close, why certain people had to walk away, why certain seasons had to break you, because you were being crushed into the character that could handle the calling. When a grape is crushed, juice flows. When an olive is crushed, oil flows. And when your soul was crushed, oil flows. Prayer flowed from crying. They don't know the prayers you prayed with trembling hands. They don't know the pain that pushed you to your knees. You don't wear your scars on your sleeve, but you carry the lessons in your spirit. You have continually pushed yourself even when you didn't see what was there. You carried the lessons in your spirit. You were forged in fire. You were taught by trials. You were raised in the wilderness, and it shows. Because now, when storms come, you don't panic like you used to. Now, when people leave, you don't lose your peace. Now, when things don't go your way, you don't question God's hand. You trust His plan. The crushing gave you clarity. You used to think success was the goal. Now you know obedience is. Now, you say, I am obedient because I desire that you walk in peace. Now you know obedience is, you used to chase platforms, now you chase presence. You used to need validation, now you walk with vision. You've been changed by the crushing. And the fruit of your suffering is wisdom, compassion, fire, and faith. You're not the same person who walked into that trial. You came out wiser. You came out bolder. You came out ready. And now you can see that God didn't just bring you through it. He built you with it. He didn't waste one moment of your pain. He used it. He shaped it. He turned your breaking into birthing. He made your wounds into weapons. You didn't just survive, you transformed. You didn't just endure, you emerged. And now you carry something sacred. So the next time you look back on the crushing, don't resent it. respect it. Because without it, you wouldn't have the oil. Without it, you wouldn't have the fire. Without it, you wouldn't be who you are right now. The crushing revealed you. The crushing refined you. The crushing released you into your calling. And when God elevates you, because He will, you'll know you didn't get there on charisma. You got there through crushing. And no devil in hell will be able to take what was born through that kind of process. You'll walk in rooms with authority. You'll speak with power. You'll carry presence that cannot be manufactured because it was produced in pain. And people will wonder how. People will ask why. And you'll simply say, the crushing was for the calling. He saw the power you'd walk in. He saw the chains that would break just because of your presence. So He tried to make you give up in the heat, but you didn't. And because you stayed, because you endured, because you refused to run, now God is getting ready to reveal what the fire refined. And when that day comes, when God elevates you, when the tables turn, when the doors swing open, it won't be because you chased it. It'll be because you were forged for it. You'll know how to handle the blessing because you've known what it's like to walk through the blaze. You'll steward it with humility, not ego. You'll lead with compassion, not competition. You'll shine not to be seen, but to glorify the one who brought you through what should have destroyed you. People may admire the outcome, but they'll never understand the fire. They'll see the fruit, but they'll never feel the flames you endured to produce it. But that's okay. This wasn't about being understood. This was about being prepared. And you, my friend, are prepared. You are fire-tested, faith-proven, pressure-approved. That's why the next season won't shake you. That's why the critics can't cancel you. That's why the attacks don't scare you anymore. Because when you've been through fire, you know how to walk in power. You know who you are now. You know what you're capable of. You don't need to chase validation or beg for seats at tables God never built for you. You don't operate from fear anymore. You don't need to perform. You don't need to prove. You just show up, knowing you were made for this. The fire taught you that. It taught you how to rise, how to rebuild, how to release what was never meant to go with you into your future. And now that future is calling. Now the doors are aligning. Now the stage is set. Not because you pushed your way in, but because God has finished the refining. What He began in the fire, He's about to release in glory. And when He does, you'll carry the evidence. You'll speak with the kind of power that only comes from pain. You'll walk with the kind of confidence that only comes from crushing. You'll live with the kind of purpose that can only be born in the furnace. So don't despise the fire. Thank God for it. Thank Him that it didn't destroy you. It developed you. Thank Him that the very thing that tried to burn you down built you up. Because you were never being punished. You were being forged, prepared, strengthened. You were being made into a vessel that could carry destiny, glory, and purpose without cracking. You were being forged in the fire for a greater future, and that future is now. God hides what He's elevating. That's why it felt like nobody saw you. That's why it seemed like everything you touched was delayed, dismissed, or disregarded. It wasn't because you weren't ready. It was because you were sacred. When God has marked someone for something significant, He doesn't parade them in front of the crowd too soon. He conceals them. He tucks them away in quiet places, not to punish them, but to prepare them. He hides the chosen ones before He reveals them. You wanted exposure, but God gave you isolation. You wanted applause, but God gave you silence. You wanted quick success, but God gave you hidden seasons. Because if He had elevated you too soon, the weight of where you were going would have crushed the version of you that hadn't been fully developed. God will never take you public before He builds you private. Before He lets the world see your fruit, He works on your roots. He buries you deep, not to bury you in death, but to plant you in destiny. Some of the most powerful transformations happen in the places no one sees. The conversations between you and God in the midnight hour. The tears you cried that never made it to social media. The prayers you whispered with a trembling voice when no one else was around. That's where He shaped your strength. That's where He refined your character. That's where He cut off your dependency on people's approval and rooted your identity in His voice alone. God doesn't rush His masterpieces. He doesn't skip the process. He's not interested in your performance. He's invested in your becoming. And becoming takes time. Becoming takes pressure. Becoming takes a hidden season where you're developed in the dark. Because when He brings you out, you won't be weak. You won't be unsure. You won't be easily shaken by opinions or circumstances. You'll come out steady, solid, silent if you have to be, because you've been through enough to know that elevation doesn't need to be announced, it will speak for itself. That's why you were overlooked. That's why the doors didn't open when you expected. That's why you didn't fit in the spaces you once prayed to be accepted in. It wasn't rejection, it was redirection. God was hiding you for a reason. He was teaching you to hear His voice when all the noise was gone. He was teaching you how to stand when the support faded. He was growing you in secret. Because what He's getting ready to do in your life requires strength that can't be faked, an identity that can't be shaken. People saw your silence as weakness, but God saw it as wisdom. They thought you were sitting still, but heaven knew you were being prepared. They thought you were stuck, but God was stretching you. They thought you were invisible. But the truth is, you were invincible in God's hands. The cocoon always looks like a tomb until the wings break through. You weren't stuck. You were being transformed. And just like a butterfly, you had to go through a season where nobody could see what God was doing. Even Jesus had to be hidden. Before the miracles, before the ministry, before the multitudes, He was hidden. For 30 years, the Son of God walked in silence. No platform, no pulpit, no spotlight, just obedience, just formation, just faithfulness in obscurity. If the Savior had to be hidden, what makes us think we'll be elevated without a hidden season of our own? So don't curse the silence. Don't despise the hiding. God hides what He's elevating. He hides it to protect it. He hides it to mature it. He hides it so that when the unveiling happens, there will be no doubt that it was Him all along. No one will be able to say you made it on your own. No one will be able to explain how you got from there to here. It will be a testimony that makes people say, surely the Lord did this. And when the time comes when God says now, everything that was delayed will be released. The doors will open. The connections will align. The favor will fall, not because you pushed your way into it, but because you waited for it. You didn't force it. You were faithful. You didn't manipulate it. You trusted. And now, elevation will meet preparation. The hidden will become the honored. The obscured will be revealed. And you'll carry the kind of glory that can only be born in secret. You don't need to explain where you've been. You don't need to defend why you disappeared. Let them wonder. Let them talk. Because the same people who question your silence are about to witness your sudden rise. The same ones who didn't invite you are about to watch you walk through doors they can't access. And you won't have to say a word. Because when God elevates, He does it in such a way that no one can deny His hand is on you. This is why the warfare was intense. This is why the enemy tried to break your spirit in private. He knew what was coming. He knew the crown that was forming in the crushing. He knew the voice that was growing in the silence. He knew the oil that was being produced when nobody else was watching. And he tried everything he could to convince you that being hidden meant being forgotten. But the devil is a liar. God didn't forget you. He was framing you for favor, framing you for impact, framing you for an elevation that couldn't be stopped. There are things in you now that weren't there before. A stillness, a wisdom, a discernment, a strength that doesn't shake when the winds blow. Because hidden seasons make heavy carriers. God didn't waste your silence. He filled it. He filled it with instruction, with revelation, with power. And now, you're not just coming forward with a dream. You're coming forward with fire, with oil, with a call that's been tested, refined, and set apart. You were hidden because you're His. You were hidden because your timing is divine. You were hidden because your elevation is not about you. It's about the people who will be freed through your obedience. And now God is about to release what He's been forming. The wait wasn't a waste. The silence wasn't a sentence. It was a setup. Because God hides what He's elevating. And He's getting ready to elevate you. It's time to let God do the lifting. You've carried the weight long enough. You've tried to figure it all out on your own. You've leaned on your own understanding, on your own strength, on your own willpower. And you're tired. Not just physically tired, but soul weary. You're tired of being strong for everyone. Tired of pretending you're okay. Tired of smiling through the pressure, pushing through the pain, performing like everything's fine when inside you're one breath away from breaking. But God never told you to carry all of that. That was never your burden to hold. That was never your battle to fight alone. Letting God lift you is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's not surrendering in defeat, it's surrendering in trust. You've done what you could. You've shown up. You've stayed faithful. You've cried, you've prayed, you've tried. And now you're standing in a moment where God is saying, that's enough. Step back and let me do it. Because when he lifts you, it won't be temporary. It won't be built on the fragile approval of people. It won't be based on how much you hustle, how hard you strive, or how loud you shout. When God elevates, it's divine, it's unshakable, it's permanent. And no one can take the credit but him. You've been holding on so tightly, trying to keep everything from falling apart, trying to hold together what God already told you to let go of. You've been carrying people, expectations, dreams, failures, fears, all at once. You've been saying, if I don't do it, who will? But the truth is, God's been waiting on you to release it, to finally say, I can't do this without you. Because the moment you let go is the moment he steps in. There's a kind of peace that only comes when you stop striving. There's a kind of strength that only comes when you admit you're tired of pretending to be strong. There's a kind of clarity that only comes when you sit still long enough to hear God whisper, I've got you. You've been trying to lift the weight of your calling with human hands. You've been trying to climb the mountain of destiny with worn-out feet. And God is saying, you don't have to do that anymore. Let me lift you. You don't need to make your own name great. You don't need to build your own platform. You don't need to force what's not flowing. You don't need to chase opportunities that require you to shrink who you are. Let God open the doors. Let him bring the favor. Let him bring the favor. Let him defend your name. Let him raise you up in his time, in his way, for his purpose. Because when he does it, it won't cost your peace to keep it. When he does it, it won't compromise your integrity, your values, or your mental health. Some of you have been climbing for so long, you don't remember what it's like to rest. But God never called you to be your own elevator. He called you to trust, to believe, to rest in him. You're trying to be the architect of your future when he's already drawn the blueprint. You're trying to carry the load of every outcome when he's already written the end from the beginning. He knows the plan. He knows the timing. He knows the route. Let him do the lifting. You're not a failure because you're tired. You're not less faithful because you need rest. You're not weak because you can't do it all. You're human. And you serve a God who is not asking you to be superhuman. He's asking you to be surrendered. He's asking you to hand him the burden. He's asking you to trust him with the things that are beyond your reach, beyond your understanding, beyond your strength. And the truth is, some of you have been lifting things that were never yours to carry. Lifting people who never asked for help. Lifting guilt that's already been forgiven. Lifting shame that was nailed to a cross. Lifting expectations that God never placed on you. No wonder you're tired. No wonder your soul feels heavy. You've been doing the heavy lifting in a place where God said, this part is mine. It's time to draw the line. To stop playing Savior and start being a son. To stop performing for love and start living from it. To stop reaching for things out of desperation and start receiving what God gives from rest. Because you were never called to live exhausted, anxious, and spiritually bankrupt. You were called to live from overflow, from grace, from peace that passes understanding. Letting God do the lifting means trusting that he knows when and how to elevate you. It means understanding that delay is not denial, it's development. That the season you're in isn't punishment, it's preparation. that when the time is right, he will raise you up in such a way that it will silence every voice that doubted you. You won't have to prove anything. You won't have to argue your value. The fruit of your elevation will be your answer. So stop striving, stop comparing, stop clinging to control like it's the only thing keeping you safe. You don't need control when you have the Creator. You don't need to carry it when God is offering to take it. Your future doesn't depend on how hard you climb. It depends on how fully you trust. The highest places in the kingdom aren't earned by effort. They're reached by surrender. It's not about working harder. It's about surrendering deeper. That's where the power is. That's where the miracle happens. That's where God lifts you above the noise, above the fear, above the chaos, and places you exactly where He needs you to be. Not so you can boast, but so you can breathe. So you can live, so you can be exactly who He created you to be without the pressure of being everything to everyone. God is not waiting for you to be stronger. He's waiting for you to be still. He's not waiting for a better version of you. He's waiting for a more surrendered one. He's ready to lift you into the place where peace is your portion, grace is your ground, and favor is your flow. Let go of what you thought should have happened by now. Let go of the timeline you created. Let go of the version of success that's exhausting you. Let go of trying to prove your worth. Let go of trying to do what only God can do. You're not the lifter, you're the lifted. So now you understand you weren't broken. You were built for this. Every scar, every silent battle, every season where you felt hidden, crushed, overlooked, or on the edge of giving up, it was never for your destruction. It was for your construction. You were being made, not unmade. And while you were questioning God's process, heaven was authoring your promotion. You didn't survive all of that just to go back to who you were. You went through it to become who you had to be to carry what's coming next. You're not the source. You're the vessel. And your greatest strength will always be found in His hands, not your own. So breathe, release, trust, and let God do the lifting. Because when He lifts you, no one can bring you down. The fire didn't burn you, it branded you. The pain didn't stop you, it prepared you. The silence didn't bury you, it birthed something greater in you. And now you've got a strength that didn't come from applause, a wisdom that didn't come from books, a power that didn't come from position. It came from the process. And because you didn't quit, because you didn't run, because you stood through the storm when everything in you wanted to lay down, you're ready. Because you saw the way out, and because you didn't, you're ready. You're ready to rise without rushing. You're ready to lead without needing validation. You're ready to walk into rooms and not shrink back. You're ready to stop begging for scraps when you were born to build tables. You're ready to speak with boldness, walk in favor, live in peace, and thrive in purpose. Not because of what the world gave you, but because of what God grew in you. This next season is not about striving, it's about surrender. It's not about proving your value. It's about letting God place you where He wants you. Let the world wonder. Let them whisper. You don't need to shout. Your fruit will speak. Your healing will speak. Your freedom will speak. And the elevation that's coming, it won't make sense to them, but it will make perfect sense to you. Because when God lifts you, it's never rushed. It's always right. When he opens the door, no man can shut it. When he says it's your time, you won't need to compete, compare, or compromise. You'll just walk in it. So stand tall, walk bold. Stop apologizing for the anointing you carry. Stop doubting the strength that was formed in the fire. Stop wondering if you're ready. You are. You've always been. And everything you went through was proof. You weren't broken. You were built for this. Let God elevate you. Now rise.